Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Menil Vukovic, an experienced freelance Android developer, entrepreneur, founder, and tech enthusiast. So, welcome, Menil.
Yuri, thank you for having me.
The first question for you, what is the most challenging part of being a freelancer?
Tricky one. I guess everyone has their own point of view. I would guess loneliness and communication can be a huge challenge. And both can be related. Freelancers are usually remote. So, we can define freelancer in multiple ways, but most freelancers are usually remote. They're not attending various ceremonies in offices, if there is an office, if it's not a fully remote team. And that can lead to working from home or from a singular spot that's usually isolated. And then, spending eight hours in an empty room all by yourself. Does that sound like jail to you? Because it did sound like jail to me. I worked during COVID for like 2-3 months from my room, and it felt like jail. I have a cat, I have a wife. I've socialized as much as I could during those times, but for 8 hours, I almost felt like in jail. So for me, the loneliness was one of these things. And then I mentioned communication, again, related to loneliness. If you're working with a hybrid team, these people are hanging out in the office. They're talking constantly. They're having coffee together, lunches together. They're talking, water cooler banter, and you can't really attend those, And sometimes even work-related stuff can miss you because you're a freelancer, you're a contractor, you're remote. Like all of these things kind of connect to each other, and then you kind of just feel like you're left out, even though this might not be intentional.
Yeah, but I know there are a lot of some definitely not during the COVID, but in general there are some meetups, some co-working spaces, or some events. So did you attend? How did you deal with it?
Luckily, I have a co-working space in my city, and that saved me from insanity. Honestly, I think if I didn't have a co-working space, I would probably find that for me as a person who socializes with people, who likes to collaborate, who likes to work in a team, it means a lot to have people around you talking at least about the same topic, or having some kind of discussion that can let you know every single day that you're still a human. You're not a robot. You're not what your title tells you are. You're still a person. You have a name and a last name. So for me, the co-working space was the best option, and it is still today. Like, I met so many new people. People come and go. It's different cultures, different technology, different work styles. And you feel like you're not left alone. But at the same time, it doesn't fill that void entirely. It's still not your team, your job, your office, but it's as close as you can get.
How did the first day when you joined the co-working space looked like?
Oh, it was super exciting. I took a selfie of myself, even though I never take selfies. I never take photos of anything. Like, I was stoked and excited. It's the smell of a new room, a room that you don't recognize, a table you've never sit with, and a chair that you've never sit on. So it's about like trying to fit yourself physically and emotionally. Like, where do you eat? Where's the bathroom? Should I be louder or should I be more silent? What's the vibe of the room? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? What does he do? So it's like any other new experience. Like, you always have questions and emotions and answers, but it's an exploration, and I love exploring, to be honest with you. Like, for me, it was super exciting. That's why I took the selfie.
Did you do any job during that day?
No. Well, we were just starting, so I was doing mostly setup, equipment, code base and stuff like that. So I knew, and I had some meetings. Like, for me, it was like the smell of the conference rooms, getting connected to the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. But no, not any actual work, not on day one.
Got it. So if anyone goes to co-working, never do work there. Go and
No
socialize
work,
right
no
away.
work. Straight to the kitchen.
No work allowed. But if they're good, a good coffee, you know.
Exactly. That's always important. Good.
And what is the most time-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
I guess keeping everything in order, and by everything, I mean usually non-work related stuff. So when you're an employee, there are a bunch of things that are being done for you that you don't really know and understand until you become a freelancer. So taxes is like one thing. Even if you never wrote the word tax on a paper, now you have to be a tax expert or hire a person to help you with taxes. You need to know when and how much to pay for them. You need to have bank accounts, currency converters, invoices. Like it can be hustling at some point, like thinking of, oh, what day is today? Is it like the end of the month? Should I do my taxes now? Is it the end of the year? So there are a few chores that you kind of have to get used to, I guess, that you didn't have to think of earlier. But I guess it's part of the job. You take matters in your own hands, and this is one of those things you get alongside those. You want to take matters in your own hands, take the whole package.
Are you a tax expert already?
I guess so. Even though taxes are different from country to country, I guess I got my own at least as much as I need them.
At least in your country, you can be
Yep.
a tax expert.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone will reach out to me, I will know who to connect with.
At least, if I don't know, then I know people who are tax experts who actually do that as a job, and a profession. So yeah, it can be tricky sometimes just not to forget that. And, you can't really always be carefree. So I've seen people who aren't freelancers talking about freelancing as like the pinnacle of working. And I know they don't understand that there are a few things, in between, some minor steps and milestones that you have to go through first to just be able to have that status, and some repetitive tasks that can be very, very boring.
By the way, talking about tasks, did you find out yourself how to deal with it, or did you have any consultancy?
I think I started, researching on my own, but unfortunately in Bosnia, many things are digitalized, but not up to date, and it can be tricky. And then again, it was a weird time where COVID was still raging. So some things have changed and weren't up to date. So it was a 50-50. Like I did some of the research on my own, and then I took a lawyer and consulted with him. And he even helped me, get some papers in order, because, it goes faster that way. So it was a 50-50, though if I would, do it again, I wouldn't do anything on my own. I would take a lawyer, I would take an expert, because there is a reason why someone's an expert in something. You have to rely on experts usually if you want to get things done, quicker or simpler. And I like both. Yeah.
Exactly. And what is the most nerve-consuming thing?
I guess the part between jobs is nerve-wracking and can be stressful. So for many freelancers, freelancing is still a full-time job, and some will argue and say that's not freelancing, that's not even close to freelancing. And I agree, but it's 2023, we've changed how we work, and we changed where we work and whom we work with. So there are times when you don't have a project, you don't have anything to work on, and that's when you have to become your own sales and your own marketing and your own CEO. And you have to manage yourself basically almost as a company, where you take all the positions in the company at the same time, and then try to find some work. Because if you're a freelancer full-time, you need to find work after some work is done or something changes with your contract. So that can be stressful, but then again, after a few years, you kind of get used to that. You kind of get used to periods of pauses. And for me personally, I try to take vacation at that time. Like that's the best time to take vacation, because you have no strings attached, no dependencies. And that's the best time to relax before the next step.
Do you search for projects during your vacation, or do you start doing it after the vacation?
I start doing it before the vacation. So if I know that there's a fixed deadline where I'm out of work, I will start browsing, contacting people, sending emails and CVs beforehand. And then, during vacation, I try not to do that because then it's not really a vacation. It's, you're not relaxing enough. But I do sometimes, break that law and respond to an email, even do an interview, as long as it's light, as long as it's not something that would, fully break my vacation focus and
Yeah.
put me back into working mode. But again, I think this is a personal preference.
How do you rest?
Oh, I've had an adventure with that for years. So way back then, when I was just starting off my career, I thought resting was only for the weak, that only weak people need to rest. Weekends were fancy word for Monday and Tuesday. So I avoided vacations, I avoided resting, and when I did rest, I didn't really rest. Now that I've grew a little bit wiser and older, resting for me is 8 hours of sleep, continuous 8 hours of sleep, a lot of water, and then not having an agenda for the day, like not opening a calendar. I think the most luxurious day I can have is waking up and not even looking at the time, like not caring what time it is, and spending the first hour or two of the day not seeing what time it is. For me, like that's the if someone is listening to this and wants to try this, I highly recommend wake up one day and don't even look at the clock and try to survive as long as you can in that day without knowing what time it is. And the rest is just trying to take 2 weeks instead of 1 week, trying to travel somewhere, and then, not thinking about work.
It's a great challenge to try.
It's a tremendous experience, like waking up and not even know what time it is and not even looking at it. Like even on your phone, you have a clock, but try not to look at it. Try not to take your phone at all. Like have some breakfast, have coffee, have anything, but don't look at the clock.
If your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top 3 things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
Financial security, I would start with that. So people think freelancing is a financially better or sound option. It can be, but it's a gamble. So working for a stable company for a longer period can be financially more beneficial. So I would always start with that. If you have a family, if you have someone to take care of, think, can you really survive 3, 6, 12 months without any financing? If you can, sure, start freelancing because you will need some time. You will have some pauses in between jobs. Other than that, I would advise them to, try and keep calm and collected in every single situation. Negotiating for yourself any kind of job can be a little bit tricky, especially in the beginning when you can't really measure your own value. So you're going to be either underpaid or overpaid at some point. You have to live with both, without being anxious about anyone else. And I think lesson number 3 is just don't compare yourself to other freelancers. We all have our own journeys. We're all going through a wood, through woods, and everyone has their own path. So trying to compare yourself with someone else might, be less beneficial than you think. Try to build your own path, your own career, do what you like more than what is, highly paid. And in the end, it's usually worth it.
Yeah. Menil, I wish to have the sky's the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question, if you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
Good question. I don't really know. Honestly, I think I would probably make the same mistakes. So I don't know if I could have done anything differently. I don't think things have changed too much, but I guess I would be a little bit more diligent, with numbers, like when I need to do my taxes and stuff like that. I've had most problems with that initially, like thinking of, is it today or tomorrow, or should I have done it yesterday? I would probably just write it in my calendar. Like those chores, I would write them down instead of, try to remember them in my head, because there's more than a few to remember and it's very easy to forget. So using the calendar more often, or a reminder app.
I totally can hear you here because, before I was a freelancer, I never used a calendar, and now I can't understand how I lived without a calendar.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Menil, thank you so much for sharing your challenges. Like I can relate to so much of them, and I'm super happy to relate and to learn from your experience.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Yuri.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.